fake news. He also notes that we live in a time of post-truth politics. What a scary term that is. Post-truth politics, in which debate is largely framed by appeals to the emotion and largely disconnected from the details of policy. I think he's right. He's on to that. Fake news today is huge. It is big business, really, in social media. It stirs chaos because when a group of people in a democracy can't agree on simple facts, how can we possibly make rational decisions based on fact? We can't. And so we make decisions again and again that harm ourselves and harm others. Never forget that when you hear that term, fake news, immediately think lies. Because someone is always lying when there's an accusation of fake news. Somebody in that whole process is lying. We live in an age when it is so easy to spread lies and so hard to discern the truth. An unprecedented age of open communication over the internet and open miscommunication. Let me give you an example. Look on the back of the bulletin. I put some pictures on the back of the bulletin today. And it used to be said, and not all that long ago, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? You probably were brought up hearing a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, not anymore. Absolutely not anymore. That first picture is a picture from a family vacation of the Brookses several years ago now, okay? That was the year that our friends Fran and Jeff grilled up some pizza outside on the grill, and Fran's head was used as a pizza topping instead of pepperoni, okay? Okay, now, let's be truthful. No Frans were harmed in the creation of this picture. Our friend Joe is a graphic artist, and he had some deep skills in Photoshop, and he basically put that picture together. And Joe told us years ago that he never again would believe any picture he ever saw, because he knows how easy it is to put things into a picture that are not really there and to make it look absolutely true. It's absolutely true. That second picture, have you seen it before? You've probably seen it a lot over the last 6 or 7 years, actually. This is a Photoshop picture of a shark swimming up a flooded-out roadway, okay? In the past few years, it always spreads across the internet every time there's a hurricane that occurs in a major city. It showed up last year during Houston's major flood during Hurricane Harvey. It was not true. There were no sharks in Houston, but it was put out and millions of people hit on it, okay? Same picture was used each year during hurricanes. In the last century, fake news was spread throughout the science community. That picture of a skull is known as Piltdown Man. Does anybody know who Piltdown Man is? Well, in 1912, an amateur archaeologist named Charles Dawson claimed that he had discovered the missing link between apes and human beings. It took over 40 years for scientists to figure out that this was not true. This was a hoax. The jawbone of an ape attached to the upper part of a skull, okay? Nurses couldn't figure it out on the spot. Nobody else could figure it out on the spot. But for those 4 decades, many scientists believed this hoax because they wanted to believe. And that is the key to spreading lies, by the way. Somebody has to believe it. As Pamela Meyer, a noted expert in lying, points out, lying is a cooperative act. Always. A lie has no power whatsoever if it's a mere utterance. Its power emerges when someone else agrees to believe the lie. And the main point of my message today is, don't believe the lie. Test every idea that someone tells you. In 1 John chapter 4, we're told to test the spirits to see if they are of God. In other words, use your powers of discernment. Think, observe, explore, study, feel what resonates on a human level. Work to get at the truth. In every situation, always question what you're told. Always. Because if we don't do this, chaos will rise up and win the day. Now, lying and chaos has been around from the very beginning of creation itself. It began at the very beginning. Look at Genesis 1. In those first few verses, we're basically being told that chaos exists in the background, always ready to mess things up. And God acts to bring order and reason and control to chaos. The Hebrew word is tahu wabahu. Isn't that a cool little rhyme? Tahu wabahu. And that's the word for chaos. It's the ancient Hebrew term for chaos. Darkness, the deep sea, formlessness. These are all parts of that Hebrew word, tahu wabahu, for chaos. The earth was without shape It was dark over the deep sea, and God spoke into that chaos, and there was light. And God spoke, and the sea was separated and controlled. And God spoke, and land sprung up, and the earth as we know it took form. God brings order to chaos, always. But chaos does not go away. It keeps lurking. It keeps popping up in our world. Fake news is nothing new. We find it interwoven throughout the Bible, absolutely. Throughout the people of God's long trek to salvation. Throughout creation itself. In the garden, in Genesis 3, the first fake news happened. The serpent distorted God's message about eating fruit of the trees in the garden. And Eve picked up on that fake news and did some distorting of her own, and so on and so on. And human relationships broke down, and paradise was lost. We now simply struggle to live and struggle to understand God. We struggle to hear truth itself. And all of creation struggles too, with lying and with fake news. You see that picture of Coco on the back of the bulletin too, by the way? I didn't just put that in there for fun, although it is a fun picture. You remember who Coco was? Coco was that gorilla back in the 90s that learned over 2,000 words in sign language and could communicate actually very well with Coco's trainer. Well, in that picture, you see Coco with her pet kitten. Okay? Coco had a pet kitten. And basically, her handler once came in to see Coco and saw that a sink had been pulled out of the wall in Coco's cage. And the handler asked Coco, what happened to the sink? And you know what Coco said? This is absolutely true. The kitten did it. Who knew gorillas could lie, you know? They absolutely can lie too. The kitten did it. Lying even cuts across species, okay? Pilate, when Jesus was before him, asked, what is truth? Isn't it interesting that Pilate, the consummate politician of his day, had trouble understanding truth when the truth stood right before his eyes? Politicians have had trouble with truth ever since, haven't they? Distorting the words and actions of their opponents and inflating their own. This is nothing new under the sun. And then Jesus' resurrection came, an event that declared that death is no longer the final word, that sin will not bring chaos to God's beautiful creation forever, declared that God has not abandoned us. God loves us all so, so much that he sent his Son to die for us, to deal with our sin, to make us whole once again. And immediately what happened?